Hi guys, it's the Novice Reader here, and it's been a while, but I'm back today with another video because I went to the town of Hay-on-Wye, which is on the border of England and Wales, half the town being England and half the town being in Wales. And why you might think that's important, well, the geographical area is not, but what's important about this town, it is officially classed as the world's first book town. So anyone who is interested in books, this should be a very interesting video for you. So here I'm going to hold up, this is the little map. And it also has the different bookshops, so you can have a look at that on the other side. They're all the different bookshops, but the most important bit being the map. So as you can see, there are 25 different bookshops in one little town, and as you can see, it's not that far. So every other shop is almost a bookshop, so it's a book buyer's absolute dream to go there, and I'd highly recommend it if either you live near or you, like myself, we got an Airbnb for a few days and we just stayed there and went crazy buying books, enjoying the nice weather. And there's also a lot of things for everyone else to do, lots of nature walks, lots of pubs, restaurants, cafes. It's got a bit of everything for everyone, so I really recommend going there. It's got some really nice history as well with Hay Castle. We didn't get a chance to go in there, but I've seen some videos on it and it does look really great from the outside. It's really nice. But in regards to the bookshops, the important part, I was going to give kind of like, I'll go through the books I bought, which is the most important thing about a book haul video. But the bookshops that I most enjoyed, I'll just kind of give a top 5. So if you are thinking about going to Hay-on-Wye, you might get some, ideas. So the first one is number 3 on the map, which is the Broad Street Book Centre. And what's quite interesting is about this one, it's a bookshop, but it's made up of several bookshops. So for example, it's all on one floor, but there's different sections, and they're each owned by different people because they rent bookshelves. So when I asked the lady in the shop, that's how she explained it to me. So what was really interesting, you could go into one little alcove and you could see, for example, horror or sci-fi and fantasy, and then you look through all them, and then you go into another little alcove and there'll be more horror and sci-fi. So it's not all in the same place because every buyer has different areas. So that was a really great shop. I bought 4 books from there, which I will go through in a bit, and I'll go through the rest of them. So that's the first one, which is number 3 on the map, which is just over here at the top. The next one, which I really liked, was the Richard Booth bookshop, which is number 7 on the list. And Richard Booth is actually the man who basically created Hay-on-Wye as a book town. He moved back there, I think, in the 60s after he inherited a second-hand bookshop, and he basically just encouraged people to bring back books when they went abroad, which then helped build his second-hand bookshop, and then in turn other people got interested and invested, and then that's why there's so many bookshops. So the Richard Booth bookshop is great. It's like a normal bookshop, so it's got all the categories, but it's got a massive selection of books, and it's really nice inside. But the thing is, they've got a lot of books, they're all full price, but if you go downstairs, which is the area that I'm interested, you've got the horror, the sci-fi, the fantasy, and classics as well, which is great. But you've also got a second-hand section there, so you can get your full price books of all the books, and surprisingly, they actually had a better collection than many of the Waterstones I go into. So if you are interested, that's definitely one to go to. Had some great second-hand crime and fantasy books that I think I picked up as well, so again, highly recommend. The next 3 are going to be combined because they're all owned by the same shop, and it's called the Addyman Books. So Addyman Books has 4 shops in Hay-on-Wye. It's got 2 Addyman Books, one on the bottom side of the town and one on the top, and then they've got 2 specialised bookshops that are actually next to each other. One is called Murder and Mayhem, which is all about murder and mayhem. It's all about crime and horror and things like that, so it's a brilliant little shop. And right next door it's got Christie and Doyle, so that's Agatha Christie and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So you've got Agatha Christie's mysteries, you've got Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. So again, a massive selection of really great books, and what they've got in there, which I think is great, is a lot of the vintage books, a lot of the really old books you would have got in, like, let's say, I don't know, 50s, 60s, 70s, and they all are in pretty good condition. So you can pick them up for a few pounds, which again just kind of gives to the shop overall. I did pick up a few books from there, which I will be going through. And then across the road from those 2, you have the Addyman bookshop, which again it's just like kind of a normal bookshop with normal prices, but it's got some really great editions of books. One I've got here, which I will show you. and actually very reasonable prices, because the book I picked up, I'll just get a bit of a spoiler. It's an Ernest Hemingway, the best of, and it's a big book, big hardback book. I picked up for £15, and it has 4 of his best stories in a beautifully hardbound cover, for £15. Can't go wrong there. So that's those for 3 bookshops. So that's the top 5. However, there were so many more, different places you can go, different bookshops. So, they were my top 5, but you might go there and completely, disagree, might find another top 5. But if you are interested, I'd highly, highly recommend at least checking out Hay-on-Wye on the internet. This is the map that they do give you when you go there. So yeah, actually, just reminded me, because I forgot the one that's actually was my favourite, even though it's not in my top 5, and it's actually an honourable mention, number 1. It's the Hay Cinema Bookshop, which was number 26, I think, 25, which is not actually on here. No, it's number 22. So it's just down there, right on the bottom. So the house we stayed in was very close to this one, and this was probably the best bookshop of them all. So I think it's an old converted cinema. So you've got an upstairs and a downstairs, and the upstairs is just row after row after row of different books from all genres, all collections, all points of interest, so that any book you want, you may find it there. But what I found really, really good about this shop was that they had brand new books, so books that are, Justin Waterstones or things like that, for half price. So I got a bunch of books in there, books that I wanted for a long time but didn't really want to spend the full price, and I got the brand new ones for about, some were $3.99, some were $4.99, and they're all brand new, great quality. So again, cinema books was like my number 1, even though it didn't feature in my top 5. So anyway, getting on to the book haul, which is what people are actually interested in. We'll start off with a bunch of books that I honestly don't even remember what I've bought. I was in such a book buying haze. I was just grabbing books, anything that took my interest. So if I'm surprised to see these books as much as you are, there you go. So the first one is Cormac McCarthy, Child of God. I picked this up in the Red Cross charity bookshops. There's also 2 charity bookshops. There's a Red Cross and an Oxfam, so there's even more books available. So this is £3. I'm a big fan of Cormac McCarthy. I really enjoyed The Road and The Blood Meridian. I don't know if enjoyed is the right way to describe those books, but I did enjoy both of them. I really like his writing style. It's very different than a lot of other authors. His use of grammar and the way he describes things is it's different, but in a good way. It's different. It kind of makes things fresh. So this is his Child of God, which I think is about some sort of murders in Tennessee. I'm not entirely sure. I read the back of it when I was there, and I really thought this sounded interesting, so I picked this up, and this was £3. I will try and give the cost of every book, just so you have a mental awareness of how much these cost. I'm pretty sure I spent under £100, which is, for some of you might think, oh, £100 on books is crazy, but my 30th birthday, so, this is my kind of presents to myself sort of thing. So that's the first book, Cormac McCarthy, Child of God. Next, this is one of the books I picked up in the Cinema Book Club, and this is John Steinbeck, Canary Row. So I've only ever read one Steinbeck book before, which was Of Mice and Men, and I read that at school for my GCSEs, and it was at a time in my life when I was really not reading. So to read a book like Of Mice and Men, I thought, it wouldn't interest me at all. During that time I was into video games and going out with friends. I didn't really think of anything about reading or writing or anything like that, but I really enjoyed Of Mice and Men, surprisingly so for 15-year-old me. So when I was in the shop, I saw a few John Steinbecks, and I thought these covers are great. There's also the other covers from the collection on the back there, and I also heard one of the books she was recently, I think it's called Man Carrying Things. He mentioned how this was one of his favourite books of all time, and how it's basically a guy going around a town in the 50s or the 20s trying to organise a party, and you meet a lot of interesting characters, from gamblers, drunks, bums and artists in California during the Great Depression. So I enjoyed his writing Of Mice and Men, so I'm interested to see what this is like. So this is kind of a classic I want to put on to my list, and again, beautiful cover, so there you go. Next we have, this one came from the Hay bookshop, so not a bookshop I've mentioned, but this was the only book I picked up there, and again this was £3, and this is Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude. So this is a very famous book that, you know, is set in South America. It's one of the big classics. I don't know too much about it, but I know a lot of people have always, you know, raved about it, said it's great. And I am trying to go through my classic era at the moment. So when I saw this, I thought I'd have to pick it up. It's an interesting cover. I don't think it really gives too much away if I put it on both sides like that. But as soon as I saw it, I knew. I've been looking for this book for a while. Just when I'm out and about, I've kind of got a list of books in my mind that I would like to pick up if I see them, and this has been one of them. So I am very, very interested in reading this. So there you go. That's 100 Years of Solitude. Here's another one from the cinema book shop. I am really surprised that I remember where I bought these from. I don't have a list, it's just going off the top of my head. And this is the best of Robert Zelensky. So he is a science fiction author. I've never read anything by him at all, but I've heard a lot of people say really great things. A lot of the booktubers I watch, I forget their names off the top of my head, but a lot of the ones like Michael K. Vaughan, I think he does it. Secret Fire Books is another book channel. Check both of them out. They're both brilliant booktubers. And he basically is one of the best science fiction authors. And science fiction is something that I'm trying to get more into. I was very heavy in fantasy for a long time, but you know, I really want to dive into science fiction because I've read a few recently. Like I read Recursion by Blake Crouch the other day, and I love that. I love the sci-fi elements of that, so I kind of want to give this a go. And apparently, according to the back of this, he's won 6 Hugo Awards, 3 Nebula Awards, and 2 Locus Awards. So you can't go wrong with that. But this is a sci-fi classic of the best of Robert Zelensky. So I'm looking forward to reading that. And again, what a beautiful cover. I love the sci-fi masterworks as well. I'm starting to get a little collection of them, and they've all got, I like the uniform covers and the uniform spines. They're really great. Next one is The Eagle of the Ninth, and I picked this up for £1 in an Honesty bookshop. And that, by the way, that Zelensky one was, I think it was $4.99, and I think it's like £9 in a normal Waterstones or an official bookshop. So The Eagle of the Ninth, I got this for £1 in an Honesty bookshop, and that was 2 other things that you should know about Hay-on-Wye. They have these Honesty areas. So one of them is a Honesty bookshop. You go in, pick a book. If you want it, you put £1 in a little green box. And there's also Honesty bookshelves just in the castle grounds, which again, you just go in, if you like any of the books, you pick them up, put £1 in the box, and they're yours to keep. So I think it's a great way to do it, and I think a lot of people donate their old books. So the majority of things, I didn't really see anything I liked, but I thought The Eagle of the Ninth was always interesting. When I saw that, I never know anything, I haven't seen anything about this before, but I really enjoy the Roman kind of era of Britain, at least reading about it. I do enjoy like Bernard Cornwell's, which I don't think you can see, which are just down there. Kind of his Saxon stories, you know, the Vikings and things like that. But I always like his Britannia stories as well, and they always mention the kind of the Romans. And this is basically when a Roman has to go on a journey north of Hadrian's Wall, hoping not only to solve a mystery but to rediscover the famous eagle, symbol of the legion's honor. So again, it's a, you know, I think it's a Roman who goes north into Scotland, which was, you know, a very dangerous place back then for Romans. So again, I think this would be a really interesting kind of story about Rome. I've also been reading the kind of Roman stories. I don't know if they're here somewhere. Yeah, this is one of them by Con Golden. I can't say that name, but this one's about the life of Julius Caesar, and I've been reading them, and it's really got me back into Rome. So that's one I will be interested in reading. The next one is, I got this at Robert Booth's bookshop, and this is Louis L'Amour short story collection. So for anyone who doesn't know, Louis L'Amour is one of the most famous Western writers in the world, and I am a big fan of Westerns. One of my, if not my favourite book of all time is The Lonesome Dove by Larry McNulty, and Louis L'Amour has always been an author that I'm very interested in. I've heard a lot of good things from people, booktubers like Michael K. Vaughan, so I wanted to pick this up. I saw that it had a Western section, which you don't normally see in any bookshops nowadays, so this was full price, so it's a $7.99, and I just thought I want to buy a Louis L'Amour. There wasn't any in the kind of the cheaper section, and I thought I might as well get his short stories, because if I like them, then I can buy on full novels. But if I don't, then I've only spent £8 on this, so it's not the end of the world. But this is all frontier stories, so I'm really, really looking forward to reading about, you know, those Western stories. So that's Louis L'Amour, and that was $7.99. Next is Anne McCaffrey, Dragonflight, the first Chronicle of Pern. So I don't know too much about this. Again, I think it's kind of like a fantasy cross with a sci-fi. Like it's science fiction, but it has dragons in it. Which, how can you go wrong with that? The Lady in the Shop. This was also in the, what was that? This was one of the ones from the Broad Street Book Centre actually. And the Lady in the Shop said that her friend from university told her to read this, and she's loved them and she's read almost all of them. So again, I've seen Secret Fire Books and different booktubers discuss this, and they've all been giving it really high praise. So I do want to kind of get more into like that kind of older sort of fantasy sci-fi. So I always think they're really well written and they're really, really interesting, especially the way writing styles, you can compare how it's changed to today and like kind of the story and the different structures and different things like that. So I'm really interested in that. And again, great cover, great old-fashioned cover with the dragons there. And this was £3. So £3 for this one. Next was another book from the exact same store, and this is False Value by Ben Aronovich. This is kind of his Rivers of London series. I have a few, you can't see them, they're down there. I've read the first one and enjoyed it, but I'm a big fan of urban fantasy. As you can probably see, there's Dresden Files up there, and there's Patricia Briggs series, which I haven't started yet, but I really want to. So there's a massive, I think this is like his, I don't know which book in the series this is, but I've been collecting them every time I see them, especially if I can get them for a good price, because I do want to eventually read them. Only problem is, you can see it is a bit damaged. I didn't notice this until much later. It's a shame, but at the end of the day, I'm happy to spend my money in a bookshop like that. And I'm not going to ask to return it, because you know, independent bookshops, we always support them. And this was £3 as well. So £3 for this one. Okay. Moving on, we have another book from the exact same bookstore, and that is Terry Pratchett, Men at Arms. So my good friend has recommended that I read Terry Pratchett. He said it's some of the best writing and some of the best humour, and it really is like a step above a lot of fantasy, especially his Discworld novels. And the friend in question has always recommended him some great books, and has always, never led me astray, and I always trust his judgment implicitly. So when I saw this for £3, I thought, I've collected a few other Terry Pratchetts. You can see Going Postal there and Night's Watch are up there, which Going Postal is going to be my next read. I also have another book here somewhere for Terry Pratchett that I picked up. So this is Men at Arms. I think it's part of the Night Watch series, the City Watch series. I'm not sure which order they go in, but again, it's just, I'm kind of like building up a little collection. Doesn't say what order they're in. I have heard you can read them in any order whatsoever, but I think it'd be good to read them in some sort of order of whatever sort of series. Apparently this was £4.50 from the same shop as the last two. And this was the final book from that shop, which is Galaxy in Flames, part of the Horus Heresy of Warhammer 40k. So I've actually owned the first two in the Horus Heresy, the first two books. I've read the first one, I have the second one, and this just happened to be the third one, which I kind of lucked out on. That this was the only one they had, and it was the third one, so the next in the series. So I've always enjoyed the Horus Heresy. I really want to get back into it. 40k in general, I am into fantasy, Warhammer fantasy a lot more than the 40k stuff, but I have been watching a few lore videos of 40k over the last few months, and it is something that I'm really interested in. And the Horus Heresy is some of the most interesting stories. The writing's always really good. I'm not sure who has written this one. Oh, Ben Counter. Haven't read any of his. I've read some of the other authors that have done multiple books, but we'll see. We'll see what this is like. So this is Galaxy in Flames, and this was £4.95. So £4.95 for that. And then we've got two more from the next three are from the Cinema Club, and this is Cormac McCarthy, All the Pretty Horses, and Cormac McCarthy, The Crossing. So these are two more books by our man Cormac McCarthy, and basically a lot of people have just given him great praise for all of his stories. Like I said earlier, and I've been a massive fan of his for a long time. So I wanted to kind of experience more, and a lot of these ones all kind of sound really interesting, all kind of in Texas or on the southern border of America. They kind of sound like westerns in a sense, but not quite. And I'm really interested. Apparently this one here is about a young boy who finds a wolf and then tries to return the wolf to where he comes from, but he has to pay a price. sounds fascinating. And the pretty horses is, you know, something about ranchers and pretty horses, I imagine. But again, I picked up both of these. I think they were both $3.99. Covers aren't the best ones for these ones, but at the same time, you know, they've got that kind of Western feel. They do have, obviously, you know, some of the quotes from the different people in the big writing, and sometimes it's all, honestly, when I first saw these, I was looking like, wait, what is the title of this? Obviously the cross in here, and then the beautiful and dangerous. It's just like a quote from someone. So there's Cormac McCarthy, these two books, and both were $3.99. Yeah, this is volume 1 of the Border trilogy, and this is volume 2 of the Border trilogy, so that works out very well. Got the first 2 of that. I'm not sure the third one is. It might even be the other Child of God, I'm not sure. And the last one from the Cinema Book Club was the Never Game by Jeffrey Devere. And this basically, my wife and I watched a program on Disney Plus called Tracker, and it's based on the character in this book, Cold to Shore. He basically goes and tracks things down. He's kind of like a lost and found sort of character. When people have someone missing in their life or something missing, he goes and finds it. And that series is based off this character. So I always like to go back to the source material after I've read a story. We'll watch a TV show even. So this was £3 from the Cinema Bookshop again. So that was really interesting. Okay, we're coming on to the last ones. I won't take too much of your time. So this was the Addy Man books. And this is a mixture of the Mayhem and Murder, Addy Man books, and the Doyle and Christie shops. So here's the book I was referring to earlier, which was the Ernest Hemingway Best Of, which, as you can see, what a fantastic cover. A beautiful spine as well, and this is depicting The Old Man and the Sea, which I have read and I really enjoyed. And the stories that are present in this one is The Sun Also Rises, For Whom the Bells Toll, A Farewell to Arms, and also The Old Man and the Sea. So it was £15, but again, it's a great, you know, it's a lovely edition. And those books, if I bought all those books on their own, it would have probably, especially if we bought them brand new in Waterstones or something like that, it would have come to 40 quid. So for £15 for a great edition that's going to look really good on the bookshelf, plus get all those books included, you know, where can you go wrong? So that's Ernest Hemingway. The next one I got from Murder and Mayhem was American Psycho by Bret S. Easton Ellis. I cannot speak today. It's very hot here, so I apologise. But again, I've seen the movie. American Psycho is a really, really good film, but I've heard the book is quite different, and it kind of gives you a better understanding of the work. A lot of people have obviously said that they don't like when people kind of connect with the main character of Patrick Bateman, which obviously is probably a red flag. I think I saw someone say it's a red flag if you connect with this character. But again, I don't think people connect with the character, I think people connect with the story. And I'm really interested to see how this kind of psychopath goes through New York and his story, and how it differs from the adaptation starring Christian Bale, which again was a really great movie. And that was $4.95. Last 2 books. This one, again, from Murder and Mayhem, is Hex by Thomas Old Hulvet. Don't know anyone's name, I'm sorry. But this was a book that I was continuously recommended when I was looking for book recommendations on kind of like scary horrors set in a small town. And as you can see, this is totally brilliant and original, a quote by Stephen King. So Stephen King does quote a lot of books, but he normally has some, you know, good feedback. So that's Hex. I think it's about a 17th century woman with sewn shut eyes and mouth walks its streets, enters its homes, watches its people when they sleep. They call her the Black Rock Witch. So I think I won't read any more of that, but I think that's, yeah, a really interesting premise. I'm really hoping it's kind of a good scary book, a good, you know, one to just sit down kind of in the, you know, the same sphere as like a Stephen King. It's less than 400 pages, so it should be quite a quick read. So yeah, that is Hex. Again, great cover. See a little witch in the background there, and that was $4.95. I think that's normally the cost for most of those books in Mayhem, Murder and Mayhem. And this was the last one, The Great God Pan by Arthur McCann. Stephen King, Oscar Wilde, both commented on this. This is supposed to be like kind of one of the original horror stories, which caused quite controversy back in the day. People, I think, talks about the author's sanity after he published this, but it also created a new way for horror. to be depicted in the written media, and I think it was a big inspiration for people like Stephen King, but also H.P. Lovecraft, and other authors like this. So this is kind of what kickstarted a lot of those authors' kind of inspiration. So I'm very interested in, you know, what this is about, and you know, how it goes. Again, great cover, got a scary little face of that lady who I believe is kind of a main character in the story. And just having a look at the back, that Arthur McCann, the author, was an unknown writer, but this kind of pushed him into stardom. So another classic which I think would be great to watch or read even. So that's great. I'm gonna look forward to that. And the last things were that before we went to Hay-on-Wye, we stopped in Dryon Park. It's part of the National Trust. And if you don't know, basically all national trusts have a second-hand bookshop, which is the best thing about them in my opinion. It's nice going around an old castle or an old house, but once you get a bookshop at the end, 10 out of 10, makes it so much better. So I did pick up some more books, and these were all £1 each. That last Great God Pan was £10, so it was a bit more pricey than most of the other books. I'm not really sure what kind of justifies it is, because it is quite small, but you know, it's of nice enough quality. So very quickly, the 4 books I got were at the National Trust was David and Stella Gimel, Troy, Fall of Kings. It's basically a fictionalized version of the War of Troy. So that'll be an interesting part of like Greek history or Greek mythology that I don't know too much about. I've seen the movie with Brad Pitt and things, but I don't actually know too much about it. David Gimel is an author that I've enjoyed reading in the past. I'm assuming Stella might be his wife, or so. I think that's pretty cool that they're writing a book together. I wish I could do something like that one day. Only problem is there is a bit of a rip, if you can see that, which is a shame, but it was only £1 and everything else about it is nice. So that's Troy, and that was £1. Next one is John York, Into the Woods, and this is basically a book on writing, more specifically about how to write screenplays, because I think John York is primarily a screenplay writer, but I'm going to use this for myself because he does use principles for story structure. So I'm going to use this for myself when I'm writing my own stories, because I'm trying to be a writer. So I read through a little bit of this, and he goes through in the beginning anyway, kind of how we've all, throughout history, we always go back to the same sort of structure, because that's just naturally how we've gone through history and how we've not agreed, about how we just kind of tell stories. So even if you don't learn this stuff, you will naturally write a story in this kind of a structure that's similar to others. So it was really, really interesting. So this is kind of the only non-fiction book I pick up, because I don't really pick up many non-fictions. So hopefully reading this will make me a better writer. But hey ho, we'll see. Last 2 now. This is John Wainwright, The Bastard, and it's a Library of Crime book. There was a few of these in the National Trust bookshop. This was the only one that caught my eye. Great name, also great cover. They were all in this style. So again, I was really just intrigued about this. It's for £1, and it's basically about it's a crime story set in Yorkshire, I believe, where things go a bit wrong when a policeman tries to arrest a known criminal, and it goes from there. So I don't really read much crime, so I'm hoping that this gets me into crime, because I think it's quite cozy in the weirdest way possible. It's a cozy kind of genre which a lot of people really enjoy. So that is John Wainwright, The Bastard, for £1. Last one is How Green Was My Valley by Richard Llewellyn, and it says on the front here, one of the truly great novels of our time. So as you can see, it's a really nice cover actually. So what I've heard from this is it's basically about a village, I think, that gets turned into a coal town because they find coal. They discover coal and how it kind of transformed the people and the town. Set in Wales, which was where we were, so I thought that was quite fitting to pick up. But again, it's another classic. You know, it might not be the kind of topic that I'm interested in, or might not grab me straight away. But even to be fair, this one did. But I want to have a wider range of books that I read, and I think this is going to be one of them. So I'm looking forward to reading this, which I've said about probably every book during this. But adding another classic, you know, not only does it kind of let you, you know, explore other things in life that you don't normally see. As someone who wants to write, it also helps me, you know, make my horizons a bit broader. So again, that was for £1, and it was How Green Was My Valley. So that's all the books. Quite a long video. I can see it's almost 30 minutes. This was the book tote bag I picked up in the cinema club. Yeah, may contain books, definitely did. But yeah, those are all my books. I'm hoping no one's adding that up because I don't actually want to know how expensive all of that was. But as you can see, a lot of them were really good prices actually for what they are. I think there was only one or two in there that were actually full price, so quite a win. But again, if you are in the UK or you're visiting the UK and you love books as much as I do, please go to Hay-on-Wye. It's a beautiful little village in a beautiful little valley in Wales and England. And again, yeah, you can go on the website, find what this, and if anything like looks quite interesting to you, please go and visit. And if you do, let me know. I'd always be intrigued. I'm actually planning on going back in a few months, so that should tell you how great it is as a little place. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. It's quite a long one, but I hope you'll join me for the next. Cool. Have a good day. Bye.